Hey guys, it's Seamoose here, and today I have an Overwatch discussion video. So the topic of this video, I was thinking about making it on the PTR, but I'm probably going to wait for some of the changes to go live. Obviously, there are a lot of changes, and the PTR has some really interesting stuff going on right now. But until those are actually confirmed, I think I'll wait to make a patch video then. But I am playing on the PTR. This is just a really unimpressive game, I would say. I just swap around some heroes. This is in competitive mode. But it fits the time that I wanted to, the length that I want to discuss this topic, and the discussion for today is going to be on spectatability and sort of going back to Overwatch esports. Something else that I'm probably going to make a discussion video is the recap of Gamescom, which concluded today with a, I would definitely say, surprising finals. I'm not going to spoil it. I would recommend you go check it out if it hasn't already been spoiled for you. But it was really impressive tournament all around. There were some really great plays by the players, and I expect to see in the future some improvements for production stuff, but that's specifically what I want to talk about here. So production stuff, as well as just casting and just the things that aren't actually the players themselves. So for a little bit of background, obviously, Overwatch is a unique game in the sense that it's a game that can be viewed in third-person omniscient, sort of this overworld map. It can be viewed in third-person over the shoulder, and it can be viewed as a first-person game, first-person shooter game, which it is. It's a first-person shooter, but a lot of the action strategically is hard to follow unless you're actually looking at it from a third-person perspective. You know, for casters' example, there was a lot of moments when it wasn't clear how many people were alive, and so they say, "Oh, he's the last one alive," and wait, no, there's more, etc. And that's just annoying for the casters. And the way that's remedied is basically by having observer tricks and stuff. I think production in this game will go a long way. I think the spectator mode is currently being worked on, and Blizzard are probably planning on releasing some huge improvements, maybe Season 2, maybe at a later time, not entirely sure. And that definitely is important, since Overwatch, I think if you look at like Overwatch compared to a MOBA is always top-down. You can basically see all the action perfectly, but it's also obviously an FPS game. It's a shooter. You want to look at the skill of the players, their aim, their tracking, etc. And the issue is to capture both sort of the over-the-top third-person view, as well as having the best parts of the FPS, is a hard balance to strike. But if it's struck successfully, I think Overwatch can be a super beautiful game to watch. And that's like the biggest thing, actually, that I would say it needs to grow. There's a huge amount of viewership. Gamescom had nearly 100,000 viewers total on multiple international channels. It had, I think, 75,000, 80,000 viewers on the English stream alone. So that is tens of thousands, dozens of thousands of viewers in a game that's still very young and had its first major LAN. And that many viewers. It has a lot of players. It has a lot of team. It has a lot of talent. And all of that will improve as well. But I definitely think that the biggest thing for Overwatch in the near future is production value is increased, how the game is presented is changed, and so on and so forth. So some of the things that I've been writing down, sort of, that I thought of, basically when the beta started and when this game was released, was what's the balance? Like, one thing that I think for any observer, producer, whatever, who wants to show Overwatch should never do is they should never, ever try to see someone who's dead. Like, if you change your camera first-person perspective to someone who is about to die or just died, that's super awkward. And unfortunately for observers, I've run into this myself, having observed some tournaments, is that actually, if you change your observer settings, it changes your game settings as well. I'm pretty sure. I still need to mess around with it more, but that's kind of annoying, and it means that you can't actually have a very succinct way of presenting the game or just controlling the observer mode, and I'm sure that that's going to change with some eventual spectator overhaul that Blizzard is going to release. As far as what needs to be done for the spectator mode, as of right now, there's a lot of issues. So in spectator mode, you can actually see health bars for anyone. You see the little tick, it's like this little triangle sort of thing, which gives you a little bit of information about the health, but it is not very easy to recognize, not easy to see. And how to present the health bars, whether or not you actually show the health bars, or you show them vertically, or you show, like Counter-Strike does, you have the heroes be shaded a certain shade of red if they're taking damage or are lit. That's potentially an option, and I hope those are options that Blizzard tries, or maybe even something different. I'd be surprised if they pulled out something different that actually works. But even in first-person perspective, if I'm not mistaken, you can't see the health bars very clearly, which is very, very frustrating for a viewer, and especially in third-person view. When you're looking at third-person and you can't see the health bars of anyone, you have no idea about what the story is going on in the game. And remember, for spectating sports and spectating esports, a lot about the presentation is there's a story in the game, and you have to be able to tell it. And that's the caster's job, too, is to tell the story. And if the casters don't really have tools to tell the story, or if the spectator mode is inhibiting the ability for just a regular viewer to see the story, it becomes hard, and it's not an enjoyable viewing experience. So that's what I would recommend, that's honestly what I think would probably be one of the first changes, is that we see some form of implementation of health bars. I would also very much expect that Blizzard is going to make an asymmetrical UI, and that means that basically probably the health bars of the heroes are stacked under each other. I think that'd be the best option to go for, since honestly they might not actually do this, but I think it'd be a smart idea. Right now, the way it works is you obviously have the top left corner is one team, top right corner is the other team. But the issue is, to get an understanding of the score and what the position that the game is in, you have to pan the entire top of the screen, and it is incredibly distracting. If you could look at one corner of the screen, or one small segment of the screen, and have an understanding of everything that's going on in the game, it'd be fine. But the fact that you have to take your focus off of the action and look all the way to the top of the screen, which is visually, I mean, it's not obviously that much of a distance, but it actually distracts you because you lose your focus in the game, is kind of a big deal. So an asymmetrical UI where the health bars of the teams are stacked next to each other and either placed in like a corner, left side, right side, or whatever, in both third person and first person spectating could be a good idea. As of right now, when you spectate in first person, the first person spectator mode looks exactly like the mode would be if you were playing. More or less, there's a few differences, like tiny differences, but it's not that great, because honestly the spread, as you can tell just with the heroes, of the abilities and health pack, or the health, just the health in general and stuff, is over such a large distance that, again, you don't want to waste time, and you also don't want to waste space where your viewers have to stop looking at the game to look at the status of the hero that is currently being viewed. So that's something that, just making the entire maps more concise, is something that I certainly expect Blizzard to do, or at least mess around with. You know, they're probably going through many iterations and many different presentations. But that's another big thing for me, is how the heck you're presenting just the health bars of all the teams total. I think that one thing that's pretty interesting is currently the percentage that's being shown for ultimate percentage is very low, or it's very hard to see, even though ultimates are very important in Overwatch. So that's something that I think as well, they could maybe make it like a fighting game where you have ultimate meter and it actually shows it, but instead of being like a circle, I think it'd probably be a horizontal bar, because the circle takes up like a lot of space. Maybe they could add the circle as well for all the heroes, but for 12 heroes, that's a little bit too obtrusive. And again, the reason why I'm suggesting it's asymmetrical, either on the left side or the bottom left corner or the bottom right corner, probably on the bottom sides, not as much at the top, although top could work. The reason why I'm suggesting it's asymmetrical is so that way players can look at like both support players and instantly see, or like you can compare the DPS. You wouldn't need to make it super important to have the player names match up each other, but it'd be pretty cool to see if like compare the two DPSs or the 3 DPSs or whatever they're playing. And sometimes, of course, they're not going to be playing the same hero, which is hopeful. Like you want that to happen, but it just lets you tell the story. And again, the important thing if you're playing and watching a game is you want to understand the flow of the story of the game, and it helps the casters analyze things too. So those are some of the immediate improvements we might see. Some more theoretical stuff that I'm sure they're thinking about is maybe having like a very small third-person mini-map if it's in first-person view. You could also do picture-in-picture. If you're watching first-person, have the third-person camera be in like a bottom corner a little bit. And that's something that we've seen in a couple of tournaments that I think is probably technology that'll be worked on, or just a practice that'll be messed around with. Because I think it's, again, I think it's harder to view. The game is harder to spectate right now than a game like Counter-Strike or League of Legends. But it has elements of both that make it beautiful to watch if that is presented perfectly. Like, if it's presented really beautifully, you'll see the top-level Overwatch players go with some crazy flick shots, impressive feats, you know, supports stay alive through thick and thin, and then pan the screen out to a 5-man resurrect, and like then a crazy play from the DPS that was just resurrected. The game itself, this is something I've noticed been criticized for a lot, but the game itself actually has a lot of depth, a lot of amazing hype moments that make it a very good esport. It's just a matter of presentation, and of course, again, it is a young game. I'm guessing that in the future, a year or two from now, probably most of these issues will hopefully be solved. But still, besides that, like, we've actually seen some of the spectating in the Gamescom tournament today it improved actually over time. It's not really great yet, but there were some really good moments, and you could tell they were getting better. They were mixing and sort of going in and out of third-person spec and then over the shoulder and then into first-person, which I think is a fantastic practice, and vice versa as well. They're also making sure to like stay on the DPS heroes when the action is going, because DPS are generally going to get your shots, but there are some moments for the tanks and supports to shine as well, and I think that's really cool to see, obviously, as the game becomes better, observers become better, and this is something that I think communities probably forget a lot, and even with the flack I saw for the casters today. So I recognize that the production at Gamescom today could have definitely been better, and more research could have been done, but you have to understand too that that was the first production for this game at that level ever, and that's sort of the way to present it. And I know a lot of actually pro players and stuff were saying, like, what if we had pros on the desk and stuff? Pros wouldn't be able to cast like a caster does. It's not something that you can just easily do, and production is not something where people just say, oh, I'm going to sit down at this computer and observe the game now, and it's going to be super easy. It actually takes a lot of time, and just like the players themselves and the teams themselves, production, the observers, just the presentation of the game, and casters, they'll all improve, and as they improve, the game becomes more fun to watch, more fun to experience, and it continues to grow. So for this discussion, I mean, just on the points of production as well, I would say, you know, give feedback as often as you can to people that you can, but recognize that, of course, even those of us who are trying to produce these games, we recognize that there are mistakes and that the game could be presented better, and that's what we're working on. That's going to be it for this video. Probably next week I might have a Gamescom recap, or earlier in this week, and then once the PTR goes live, I'm probably going to discuss the patches as well. But other than that, I will come at you tomorrow with another guide. So I think it'd be guide number 10, so almost halfway. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.